A profound anxiety ripples through the world of work right now. You feel it. Headlines from MIT suggest that using AI damages our fundamental cognitive abilities. The fear is that we're atrophying our capacity for critical thought. At the same time, working in a solitary, analog way fails to meet the demands of the modern economy. Refusing to use AI tools over the long term feels like a kind of professional suicide. So we face a dilemma. To solve this, we developed Generative Work, which focused on developing a set of evergreen principles steeped in psychology and cognitive science. We designed them to help people build thoughtfully with AI to achieve novel and superior outcomes while also nurturing human development. And then we put these principles to the test. Last August, we engaged in a 30-day, 30-app challenge. We built a functional AI application every single day, and no one was more surprised about that than me. Through that intense iteration, we crystallized a new mental model consisting of 3 guiding principles. First, use AI thoughtfully or deliberately. Second, learn the art of guidance, and we do mean art more than science. And third, rethink what is possible. Aim to innovate. So today, I'll walk you through exactly how to apply them. Let's start with principle 1. Be deliberate with your intent. The truth is, AI fosters development or hinders it based entirely upon your approach. So before you engage with AI, answer a fundamental question. Are you here to learn, or are you here to execute, or is it a bit of both? All work exists on a continuum between pure learning and pure execution. So before AI, if I handed a paper assignment to a classmate, boy, I'd be executing, but you'd be hard-pressed to say what I learned. I had outsourced my cognitive struggle. So we have the data on the risks here. A recent MIT study had participants perform writing tasks. One group used an LLM, the others didn't. In a surprise final session, the researchers removed the AI. The group that had been using the AI performed noticeably worse. They incurred cognitive debt. They trained for a marathon by riding an electric scooter, and when the scooter disappeared, they lacked the muscle to run the race. To avoid this, we must understand cognitive load theory. There is extraneous load. That's things like formatting, typos, and syntax, and types of things we had to focus on before generative AI. It might be mentally taxing, but it doesn't really offer us a lot of intellectual growth. And then there is germane load. That's the good workout. Synthesizing complex ideas, structuring arguments, finding insights. Misuse automates the germane load. Thoughtful use automates the extraneous load. If you let AI handle the unnecessary friction so you can focus 100% of your energy on the strategic thinking, you're doing it right. Now, a major misconception assumes large language models must operate like sycophantic chatbots. However, the models reflect the design we impose upon them. So during our 30-day challenge, we built Soccer GPTs. We trained this agent on the dialogues of Plato's Socrates. Socrates claims to know nothing. Soccer GPTs offers no answers. It only questions your assumptions. We designed it to challenge our mental models. It operates entirely on the learning end of the continuum. Beginners need to focus on the learning side. Relying on AI for answers at this stage robs you of skill acquisition. Experts, conversely, use AI for leverage and execution. Principle 1 demands mindfulness. Locate your position on the continuum and use the tool to enhance your intent. This leads us to Principle 2, the art of guidance. For 60 years, the workforce could be divided cleanly. Individual contributors completed tasks based on subject matter expertise, and it was managers who largely communicated vision, provided guidance, and gave behavioral feedback. That division has collapsed. Now machines are performing a lot of the execution, increasingly. Consequently, everyone requires the skills of a manager. You must learn to give behavioral feedback to non-human agents. We saw this vividly when we built the Generative Work Lab, an application designed to facilitate design thinking sessions. Our intent was to create a facilitator. However, the AI defaulted to the execution side of the continuum. It provided us with a lot of answers like an overeager intern, and it dominated our session. And I think if you had a facilitator behaving that way, you'd be left feeling that something was missing. So we provided feedback to correct this. And we thought, what does a facilitator do? A facilitator listens. So we instructed it to stop adding ideas and only to record the human input. And the AI listened. Then it became more like a court stenographer, recorded every and every ah. And so it followed those orders perfectly, but it lacked some of the judgment. And so we thought again, well, what does a facilitator do? A facilitator listens, but they may also clarify ideas or help us to synthesize those ideas. And so we said, they listen for those themes, they cluster related ideas, they clarify the structure. And this constitutes behavioral guidance. So then the application transformed. It began to produce structured summaries that revealed the underlying coherence in the group's ideas. This overall shift requires you to become a director. Directing effectively requires a multidisciplinary approach. Fixing that agent required more than coding. It required product management to define success and psychology to understand group dynamics. Furthermore, you need technical empathy. Sometimes clear instructions fail because the AI perceives reality through a different lens. Consider this painting, The Ambassadors by Hans Holbein. You see two gentlemen surrounded by the finest trappings of their age, but a stain dominates the center of the painting. This is an optical illusion, a memento mori. When you view the painting from the side, the image resolves into a human skull. It serves as a reminder. In our day-to-day activities, we forget that death accompanies us. Yet when we look at life philosophically from a slant, we see death as ever present. My simple goal was to replicate the experience of seeing this painting as it hangs in the London Museum. I wanted to create a video moving from the front view to the side view, revealing the skull. And I assumed clear communication would suffice. So I gave AI the image. I gave the command. The result was, a dancing skull. It began to do this pirouette. And I immediately felt the familiar anxiety of working with an AI model. I wondered if the model lacked the capability. I wondered if I needed to wait 6 months for better technology. But fortunately, I persisted. I provided a second target image to anchor the transition. But the result in this case became stranger. Now the AI threw the skull clear off the painting. The ambassadors looked as confused as I was. The skull disappeared, then it reappeared. The more I tried, the worse the output became. Suddenly, we shifted from an art museum into a natural history museum, and then we're back. At this point, I almost abandoned the project. The model seemed incapable of the action I wanted it to perform. But then, I had a sudden intuition, a sort of eureka moment. I realized the AI didn't view these images as the same painting. I realized that the AI was interpreting my command as a movement through space, not time. It reasoned that the skull existed in image A, but not in image B, and so the skull must have moved. Therefore, it animated the skull leaving the frame. This was the breakdown. I needed to see from the perspective of the AI. I needed to provide technical empathy. And so I stopped commanding and I started contextualizing. So then I had another idea. I found this final image, the painting surrounded by the context of the larger museum and the red paint on the wall. I made no mention of the skull. I simply said, go from here to here. And this was the result. It was the video I wanted to create all along. This example extends to every type of application in the world of work today. Technical coding skills alone will fail to achieve this. Innovation requires behavioral feedback and the ability to adopt the sometimes alien perspective of the machine. This brings us to the final principle. Rethink what is possible. Create the new rather than optimizing the old. Using AI simply to speed up existing tasks misses the full potential of this revolution. We have to aim for outcomes requiring the synthesis of human and machine. So, in summary, first, use AI thoughtfully. Focus on learning. Protect your cognitive muscles. Second, learn the art of guidance. Become a director and master the skill of behavioral feedback. And third, rethink what is possible. Solve problems that were previously impossible. I leave you with one question. What messy, impossible challenge have you pushed aside for years? This new partnership brings that problem within reach. The technology is ready. You must decide if you are.